the introduction. Hey guys, I'm Nikant. So this is yeah, this session is going to be very informal. Like I think Kamal from the final year reached out to me a few days back, and he had some questions around like working in the US. How do you get to the US? And mostly like focused on software engineering jobs. So we wanted to have a panel that can discuss that mostly. And we haven't prepared anything explicitly, so this is mostly going to be an interactive session. So if you guys have any questions, we have Piyush. If you are specifically interested in doing MS in US, you have questions around that, what it takes to do that. And then we have Kamal and me, who like we didn't do a master's to get to the US. We worked for some years in a company in India and then moved to the US. So we have a mix of that panel audience. So if you have questions related to that, feel free to shoot. Yeah, just wanted to add that context.
Okay, so I guess we can take up the questions by the audience in the chat box, and like maybe Kamal Bhaiya can at the end of the session, recite some questions or queries they have. Meanwhile, I have some questions like small to make the session a bit interactive, so we can go ahead with it, I guess. So first of all, I just want to ask you how this journey has been for you so far. Everything like your I told about your life and all. So how this journey has been for you so far?
Your voice is cutting a lot for me. I don't know if it is cutting for
Yeah,
others
it's
as
the
well.
same for me.
Mhm. Can you repeat the question?
I think he got disconnected.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
first question was, hi, this is Mayank here. Uh, the first question was, how was your journey from IIT Ropar till now? You have spent around 6 to 7 years in the industry. So how did you, what steps did you take at what moment which led you to US with or without MS? You may tell, each of you may tell your story. Till then, I'll connect with Kana and rectify the issue.
Okay. I'll start. So I think I took the different path here as compared to Nikant and Kamal. To get to I did my master's, and for doing a master's in US, you basically need to give two exams. One is the GRE, another is TOEFL. Once you do those two exams, and you apply for universities, you submit like pretty much an essay for yourself describing your life until that moment and why you want to go for the MS. And after that, I got into MS in computer science at University of California, San Diego. And yeah, the reason why I took this path, just to add clarity, is I did my master's in electrical engineering. So even though I'd done a few courses in computer science, I felt like I needed a stronger foundation to have a successful career in software development. And that's the reason I took this path and made my way to US for my master's. After that, it's been a great learning experience, just applying all of the knowledge through my job at Amazon and at Facebook. Nikant?
Cool. Yep, I can go next. So for me, the journey was a bit different from Piyush. So from college, IIT Roper, I got a job at PayPal directly as a software engineer in their Chennai office, and I started with that. I was also from electrical engineering, so I didn't have a strong base in software development, but PayPal helped me to build that base. Um, and PayPal actually was a good company in terms of like I wanted to go to the US. I wanted to get an experience of working in the US. So they had opportunities to go there if you work in a good team there. So I looked for teams which matched my background, which matched my liking, and also had a connection to the US, so I can go there. And with that, after 3 years, I was able to shift to the US. And when I came to the US in the first year itself, I made a switch to Facebook. And from the past 3 years, I have been working at Facebook, specifically in WhatsApp. And it has been great. I think like the industry experience means I know like the MS experience is a different one, but the industry experience really was a hands-on experience, and it helped me to build a pretty strong base and build a pretty strong experience in software engineering. And right now I don't miss that I didn't do a master's, but yeah, I haven't gone through that journey, so I'm not sure also. So yeah, that was my journey. Kamal.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Kamaldeep. I have done computer science 2000 batch from IIT Ropar, and I also joined PayPal directly from college as a college placement, and I spent like around 3 years in PayPal. Again, there were some projects based on which I went. I came to US on from PayPal itself, but I didn't have an intention to actually like move permanently to PayPal at that point of time. Again, I joined Google in India, and again Google gives like within Google, or even like let's say I'm just giving more broader information there, like again in terms of these big companies, whether it's PayPal, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, after a period of 1 year, 1.5 years, you can switch teams, and it's very straightforward process to actually shift teams across different locations across the world, whether it's US or whether it's Europe or any other Singapore or any other big countries there. If you want to make a switch through a company, these big companies actually give up quite freedom there to switch your team. So I was part of like I have been part of Google for almost 4 years, and I have been like building GPay from scratch from almost 4 years, which was being called Thethi initially in India. And as part of same project, taking GPay to like global world, I shifted to US within Google itself. But yeah, just to answer the basic fundamental answer, without going through MS route, you can actually like get a company in, like if your final aim is to being in US, like you can have a company which can sponsor you like L1 visa after 1.5 years, and then you can come to US. That's one way. That's other way around. We can take up like questions which are coming up on chat. Nikant, you want to go through them?
I think the host is back. Let him take it up.
I think we can take the questions in the chat box a bit later and like have some more questions. So
Sure.
as Kamaldeep said, I want you to throw some light on the roadmap on landing a job in US as a software engineer. Like what are the traceables and what is the roadmap? Want to land up a job in US?
Cool.
Maybe
I can.
we can start with Piyush. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Piyush, go ahead.
Sure. So I'll like as Kamal said, that was one way. The other way is just doing a master's or a PhD in US. And I did describe it in brief, but the way is you go for a couple of exams. One is GRE. GRE is a two-part exam essentially. One is focused on math, other one is focused on like your English essentially or analytical ability. Um, you get a score, and the US like the MS application process. It's not like the application process we have in India. It's not it's not solely based on the score that you get in these exams. So these exams are sort of like a filtering criteria. So you get a score in GRE, all good. You get some score in TOEFL. You'll basically be filtered out when you apply if you have a low score. But you need to build a holistic profile. So you have these GRE TOEFL scores. You have your CGPA or GPA, and then you apply like any research papers that you have, any job experience that you have. It basically adds on to your profile. And finally, you write an essay about yourself, which describes your journey, like what all have you learned, what you describe briefly about your projects, you describe your successes, you describe your failures. Like, let's say you you failed in one of the courses. So that is your chance to justify why you failed in the course and sort of make it clear from the write up. Once you submit this application, usually people apply to about 10 or so universities, and as you get admits, you can decide which schools you want to go for. A lot of people end up in California because it's like Silicon Valley, so easier to land up jobs here. That is what I did. That was my reasoning as well, as I ended up at University of California, San Diego. And the master's, it can be like a 1.5 to 2 year course. It depends on the university. It depends on how fast you get through the courses. And yeah, as for me, I did not do any research. I didn't have any research component to my master's. There are usually two options. You can do a thesis based master's, or you can do a coursework based master's. And I went for the coursework based master's. Um, and yeah, the job application process after that is also a little different from India. In India, the college is pretty much like incentivized to give you a job. In US, they have a concept of career fairs where the companies come in and students pitch themselves to the companies, try to get interview opportunities with them, or you apply offline on your own and get interview calls that way. The interview process is fairly similar to India. There's not much difference. I'm sure Nikant and Kamal can shed more light on that. But yeah, I got my internship through campus at Amazon, and after my internship, I got a return offer for a full-time position, and that is how I ended up at Amazon.
Cool. Yeah, I can go next. I think Piyush explained beautifully the MS route. I can shed some light on the other routes. I think there are, I guess, two other routes with varying probabilities. One is like getting a job in India in a pretty good company that has a US headquarters or US office, and that has a reputation of sending people to the US, like the Googles, the Microsoft, Amazon, or PayPal. And then depending on the company, in some companies, you have to establish a reputation for yourself. You have to find teams that have connections to the US. And then sometimes there is an internal interview process as well, like in some companies, but most companies don't have like a formal interview process. They just like you talk to the manager of different teams in the US. And then if you find a team suitable to your choice, you apply for the L1 visa, which is like a company transfer between locations visa. And once you get that visa, you can land in the US. So for PayPal, I think the route wasn't like as clear as Google. Like there wasn't like after 1 year you can apply to any position in the US. It was more about like choosing a team which has that US connection and trying to persuade your manager that okay, you want to go to the US, you have a good reputation in the company, you have proven yourself in the performance reviews or whatever, and then you make the jump to the US. Once I made the jump to the US, so on L1 visa, first of all, you can't switch jobs. You are tied to that company. So you have to apply for a H1B visa, which allows you to like switch companies, which most companies apply once you land in the US. But I also like was going through an interview process with Facebook at that moment when I switched. So the interview process is actually kind of similar in the US or India. It's not much difference for especially for the US companies. So I got a job in the US in Facebook, and they applied for my H1B visa, and that's how I got into Facebook. In terms of like the other option, which has pretty low probability, it's like directly getting a job in the US, which was kind of true in our like I think in the batch above us, I think 2008 batch, like some people directly got a job in the US, like in Epic and I guess in Amazon or some places. But I guess that has decreased a bit. I've seen like even Facebook, earlier they used to hire people like directly from India, but now they have stopped that. Like means they do hire directly from India, but not college or like recent grads. They just hire like experienced people, like 5 to 6 year experience. So that route, at least for some companies is not that straightforward right now. So that is the least probable route that I'm talking about. Um, so for me, yeah, I think for me the route that worked was actually doing means I I was confused by MS, but I had that like financial liability. I didn't want to take that liability on myself. I wanted to earn some money and then see where I land. And in my company, there were opportunities. So I thought it's better to just try for those opportunities instead of doing an MS. But I think from what I've seen with different people, I think MS is a little bit like more surer way to go to the US. Yes, you have to take that financial liability, which Piyush can more talk about. There are scholarships and other things as well that can help you. Uh, but then once you come to the US, I feel personally like the job opportunities here are much more than in India. Like the competition is a bit less, but Piyush can add more if he wants to. Uh, and then getting a job here, I guess, is a little bit easier if you are like able to perform good in your MS program. Yeah, Kamal, you want to add something?
Yeah, I believe like a lot of things you both of you have
Mhm.
already covered. But just to add on all of these three aspects which we are talking about, the MS one, getting into a company in India and then traveling to US based on an L1 visa within the same company, and then the third one directly applying to a company in US and waiting to get into that H1B lottery. Like the third one is pretty risky, and like just expanding on what the third flow notion is that if you apply for a company which is directly in US and is ready to hire you directly in US, you have to go through that H1B lottery process. And if you are like is lucky enough to get into your first round, like probably you can get directly to US. But then these same set of companies also give you an option to, like, let's say shift to another countries, whether it's Singapore or Canada, for a short period of time till the point of time you are not getting your H1B visa. So those are like different routes companies try to like stick with you if they are really want to hire you and you are just waiting to be in US. So that's why company will just hire you for different locations for time being, and then will try to get you an H1 visa in a year, a 2 year, or a 3 year. It's completely lucky draw basis. So that's the most riskiest flow flow if you want to go to US. That's like we are mostly talking of how to get into the US scenario right now. Again, if we talk from the like MS perspective, getting into, like, this is my personal opinion, again, getting into big companies becomes a bit easier because, again, as I Nikant mentioned, that the number of openings, let's say, in these big companies are much higher in US compared to that in India. Like, even though the hiring, like, I'm in the hiring committee for Google, but again, if we talk about like how many like what's the barrier is same. It's just that the number of openings which are getting opened in India are pretty low compared to that in US. So again, your chances of getting hired becomes much higher in US compared to in India, where the locations opens at a very particular point of time in the whole year. So that's where, again, MS gives you better options of getting into big companies as well in US market. And plus, again, that's the liability part, which also Nikant and Piyush has already mentioned, that you have to like get that degree and you have to pay up in front to actually get that degree and spend your 2 years in that without that earning phase. If you're ready to face that part in your life, then yeah, MS is definitely the best route to actually be in US compared to the other routes, which are still some factor there. Piyush, you want to add there?
No, I think that makes sense. And yeah, like there is a liability part for MS, varies from university to university, but I would say typically you should be prepared to spend about 25 lakhs or so, maybe more, depending on the university. Like the universities in New York and California, they're expensive. The universities in Texas are cheaper. Again, for the scholarships, usually US universities don't have a lot of scholarship options. As against to Canada, in Canada you can get like a fully funded master's and you'll be good. You don't have that financial liability to begin with. In US, it's more common to come here and get like teaching assistant or research assistant jobs, which sort of pay for your tuition and give you an income and don't put that much load on you from the financial standpoint.
And I think to add to that, Piyush, like you can also do an internship in middle of your MS program, which pays like pretty well, I guess, if you get a good company.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like most companies in US do pay pretty good. So yeah, like with that internship, you can very well earn like a decent amount of money, maybe like even a third of the cost of your master's can be recovered in that.
Okay, so I think Nikant mentioned about how the job opportunities in US are better than in India. I think following up to this, we can take up a question by Akansha Singh, who says, I'll quote, what according to you is the difference between software development job in India and in US? So, like apart from the monetary incentives, so apart from job opportunities that you mentioned,
Yeah.
some
Okay, I can start. I think I will focus mostly on the US companies here. Uh, so there are US companies like Google, Amazon, which have openings in India as well as the US. I think one thing that I've found in US, a lot of these companies have their headquarters in US. A lot of these companies have all the big shot people like the VPs or like the directors or like the good projects originate from the US and then they land in some other like countries like India or Singapore. Uh, it depends. Some teams just start from India, so those projects might be good. But like what I've seen, mostly like the good projects start here because the headquarters is here, and then like once you're here, it is like you can get much better opportunities in terms of like your areas of growth. Like there are a lot of job openings here, as Kamaldeep was saying. And then if you are interested in some area which might not be present as an opening in India, mostly you can see like in US, all of those opportunities will be present, like whether it's in virtual reality, whether it's in machine learning, or all those areas which you are interested in. So that is one of the big advantages. Your career growth, I guess, like can be faster in that terms, like especially if you are interested in a particular area and you want to explore more there. Piyush, you want to add more about this, like working in the US, how it is different?
I think another like besides what Nikant talked about, I think like work culture is one thing I've noticed a difference in when as compared to when I was working in Cisco in India and to Amazon or to Facebook. I think the work culture is a lot more different. In India, the inherent expectation like a lot of the managers have that inherent expectation that you'll slog and you'll work for 10 hours or 12 hours, which is not the case in US. In like most teams, you people respect your time. You're supposed to work for 8 hours, and if you're working for more than 8 hours, you're considered inefficient rather than like it doesn't look good on you necessarily. So that is another thing I've noticed, which is very different in US as compared to India.
okay, that's good to hear. So, I just wanted to ask, like, what's the probability of one landing a job in US with only 1 or 2 years of work experience in India?
Um, I think, yeah, the routes that we were talking about, so the probability depends on the route. If you are talking about the route of joining a good company like Google or Microsoft or Amazon, then it can be pretty high, especially if you perform well. You can apply to the jobs in US, and mostly the teams will be interested in your profile if you have been performing good in the company, and then you can make the switch. But if you don't get a job in one of these big companies, then it might be tricky. It might be improbable in some cases because uh, apart from these big companies, most companies don't sponsor you for a job in US. So it might be harder to get a job here. The second route that we were talking about is like getting a job directly in the US. Uh, and that route is like risky, as Kamal was mentioning earlier as well, because you have to apply for that H-1B visa, which has a lottery. Also, like these opportunities, I don't think so. There are a lot of these opportunities, especially with 1 or 2 years of experience. If you have like more than like 5 years of experience, then you can start talking about that. Like more companies become interested in you. But with 1 or 2 years of experience, it might be tricky to get a job directly. And the third route is you save some money working for 1 or 2 years in India, which Piyush also did, and then you apply for masters, um, and and then through that route you come to the US, which is much more probable, I think, as compared to the other routes. Mhm.
Yeah, and just to add to Nikant's point, like the
Mhm.
third route, which is basically getting a job directly in US, the probability for that lottery is somewhere between 25% and 30%.
Mhm.
So those are the odds you're looking for if you go that route.
Right.
Okay, great. So I think I can take up some questions from the chat box now. So we have a question by Karthike who says, is it possible to get a good or decent university with a low CGPA in BTech and not strong academic projects during BTech?
Um, yeah, I can take that. It depends on how low of a CGPA we're talking about. Typically, at from the profiles that I've seen, people at least have GPA over 7. I think he did say he's talking about between 6 and 7. 6 and 7, it's very dicey. You need to shore up your profile. You need to like have research papers in that case, and you need to be able to justify why you have a low CGPA. And usually, the good justification just comes from I'm like this is just a possible thing that you can write about. You can just say, I wasn't very interested in the theory, but I was very fascinated by the practical aspects of whatever electrical engineering or computer science engineering, and I have the research papers or I have the projects to show for that. So that usually helps, and I've seen people do that. Like I think one of our seniors, he is here for he came here for his master's. His CGPA was like 6 point something. But what he did was after his graduation, he took up a research intern position at IISc Bangalore. He worked there for a couple of years as an intern, got some research papers, and then finally, on the basis of that, he moved over to US. So that is a possible route. You need to have something to show for it, for like something to compensate for the low CGPA.
Thank you, sir. I have one more question. Is it possible to do research during I work in a job?
It is possible. It's very difficult though because the positions, you'll basically have to find a professor at one of these institutes, like maybe one of the IITs or IIC, and they usually need you to be more available. Like with a job, you're pretty much gone for 8 to 10 hours of the day, and you don't really have time to do full-time research. Sure, you can still do it. It's just a little more difficult to do that. Like you need, if you're saying you have CGPA between 6 and 7, you need at least like one research paper in a very reputable journal or conference, or maybe even two. So it's very difficult to do that along with your job.
And what about if is there any other route like performing really well in job or something like that, which will add up and increase the probability of getting a decent university?
So for the most part, universities don't like care much about your job performance. There's no way for them to validate it. You can say I was the superstar at my company, and there will be no way for them to like even verify that. So it gets difficult. Usually, it helps better if you have academic projects or research papers. And what happens is when you're applying for these universities, another thing I did miss out on was you need to submit letters of recommendations, and usually academic letters of recommendation have much more value. So like a letter of recommendation from someone like Sanjay Roy or has much more value than a recommendation from your manager at your company. So yeah, like another that is another thing where doing some sort of research work with professors does help you because they will give you a letter of recommendation, and based on how reputed they are, it carries more and like more weight.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll take another question from the chat. So we have been discussing about the different routes we have for landing up in US. I think this question moreover compares the two routes. So it says, like it asks for your comments on doing a software job in India and then moving to US or some other country for a software job versus doing an MS in US or some other country and then a software job.
Um,
Yeah, good.
no, go ahead. I was
Yeah,
just saying I'll let Nikant take a stab at it and then
yeah,
I'll
sure.
cover the rest of it.
I think it depends a lot on your preference as well. So first of all, like as I was talking earlier, if you want to land to the US by doing a job in country like in India and then come to the US, you have to have like pretty good companies that you can get into first. Like you have to get into the Googles, Microsofts, or Amazon first. Once you get there, uh, you can earn for some time in India and then come to the US. Uh, like this is still like more improbable route, I guess. Still, you have to like get into these companies and then come to the US after 1 or 2 years. With the master's route, uh, if you have a good GPA, you can get into good universities. Yes, you have to take that financial liability, but I still think it is more probable that you will get into a company in the US by doing a master's and then applying for jobs here. Uh, so that is one thing. The second is also like your financial appetite, because it can differ from person to person. Like if you don't have that financial appetite, like, or you can't take that liability, uh, it is better if you can get into a good company in India to do a job for 1 or 2 years, just check like how you are liking the job, and is there any opportunity that you can take in the job itself, and you will also save some money while you do that job, and then you can take a decision you want to go to the US. Uh, if if you think you can take that financial liability, you can take that risk early on, I guess it is better to just go for the MS just uh, after your like bachelor's, and then get finished with it, and then apply for jobs in the US by coming here and then get a job. So that is my take on it. But Piyush, you want to add to that more?
Yeah, sure.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
like I would say there can be multiple reasons. If your sole motivation is to get to US, then both the routes are fine. It depends on what Nikant said. If you are ready to
mhm,
front the money and like take the hit first and then like get the masters and get a job in US, that is the way to do it. But another reason why people get masters is they want to change fields, or like maybe in your bachelor's you did not do enough courses related to operating systems or distributed systems, and you want to specialize in that. That's something you're really passionate about. So masters does give you an option to like drill down on those particular areas, do more courses on them, maybe do some research related to those, and like get a more specialized job in that sense, rather than a generalist position, which is what like where most people end up after a bachelor's degree. Um, like areas like machine learning, they've become a lot more popular recently, and I think it's very difficult as a fresher out of college to land up a machine learning role anywhere these days. People usually ask for a lot more. Like you need to have all the background, all the latest courses, and maybe even a research paper, maybe uh, like a thesis. So those specialized areas, it becomes much easier if you come for masters and then go into them. Um, yeah, what else was there? I think I did cover all of that in the question.
One more thing is
And
to get MS like at an early stage of your career actually helps you get into the company, because the company in US is actually going to end up taking you at the like at the beginner stage of job profile only in the company. So even if you have an experience of let's say 1 year or 2 year, when you join the company, they are going to take you to the like the joining level of the company. And that's where I guess if you even if you have spent like 1 or 2 years of your like career doing a job in India, that is kind of that probably those are kind of getting wasted there if you end up doing an MS and then again joining a company in India. So it's better to like, if again the question again comes up on the financial part, as Nikan mentioned, that if you can financially take up that risk of going to US and do MS there, take it as early as possible, and then join the company in US, rather than spending more and more time in India and then taking the US path, MS path.
Yeah, and just to add, like the experience, like if it depends on how you see it, the experience is wasted in terms of like you could have joined an SD1 in India rather than that 2 years or like 4 years later you'll join as an SD1 in US. The experience in India does count towards getting you an internship or a job faster in US. Like that's been my experience. Usually, if you have like a solid 1 or 2 year experience from India, it helps much better. Like it helps a lot in getting an internship or a like full-time job in US after your master's or during your master's in case of internship. So like if someone is contemplating, I would definitely say like uh, make a decision before the 2 year mark. After 2 years, I don't think it's worth it anymore. You might as well just take the other routes for coming to US. If you're doing masters, do it before like 2 years of job. Uh, like that's what I ended up doing. Like I had my master's applications ready when I was in the final year, and I wasn't very serious about placements, but I did get like end up getting a job at Cisco, and then I was like, maybe I should just do a job, save up some money, so that I feel more like obviously that 20-25 lakh investment seems pretty scary, and I wasn't up for it. I was like, let me save some of my own money, and then I'll think about it. I don't want to put like the entire burden on my parents. Um, so it also gives you more confidence in yourself. Like fresh out of college, you have no idea what the world looks like. How like why would like someone hire you after your master's? So getting some industry experience does help in that regard as well.
Well, I think Piyush just answered Parnavi's question about like if you recommend getting a job experience before going to masters abroad. Harshit Malik added to this, asking if this job experience before MS help you in getting jobs after your MS compared to one who is a freshie.
It's more in terms of like getting those initial calls from the companies. It's not as if it's like a vast difference. You'll see like maybe if a person who has 1 or 2 years of experience gets 10 calls, a fresher will get 5 calls. It doesn't necessarily mean you are at a disadvantage. It's just like you'll have more options because companies are seeing something like if they see a brand name on your resume, they're always more inclined to give you a call. Uh, the resume screening phase where the recruiters look at your resume and decide if they want to even talk to you. Having like a credible company on there definitely helps you get to the get through the door. It won't necessarily help you get the job, but it will help in the first step.
I think one thing to add here, Piyush, can you shed some light here, like because like when you are in your bachelor's, you are still in this learning phase, and maybe doing a master's then might be better in that sense, like you're still in the learning phase, so you have that appetite. But once you get into the job, is it difficult to come back to the learning phase because you start earning, and then is it difficult, or was it difficult for you, or is it okay?
I don't think it was a big difference as such. Like you do have to get back into that mentality of like doing assignments and like doing courses, slogging through the semesters and like quarters as it was for me. So that is an adjustment. It takes maybe a few couple of weeks or so, but then it's a shared experience because everyone around you has come from like not everyone, but most of the people around you have come from the same experience. So you sort of get used to it. That is like that's another factor I would say why you should do it like in less than 2 years of job experience, because as you get more and more into your job and away from your learning phase, it gets even more difficult to get back into that learning phase. And yeah, like when you're on a job, you're not really living frugally. When you're coming back to the student life, you're again like you're spending in dollars, so you make sure you spend very, very frugally. It gets difficult to get there once you're once you get used to the luxurious lifestyle of like just spending money.
Oh, okay, that's great to hear. So, like as you both said that currently we are in the bachelor state and in the state of learning. So, I just wanted to ask, like, what are the some most important skills to focus on right now, and what are the things that we can work upon being in the senior year of college right now?
I'll let Kamal start with this one. He's been silent for a while.
Yeah. Again, if you're in a computer science courses or even like I would say other courses, like keep brushing your skills on the coding competitions there. I'm not sure how much of ACM, ICPC, and all those are still famous in colleges right now. But yeah, keep doing all of those online coding competitions and all of these algorithm things, because this is something which you are going to take forward all throughout your like career, whether it's 1 year down the lane or 2 years down the lane or even 5 years down the lane. If you're trying to switch the company even at that point of time, algorithms and data structures, and these are set of the things which are going to be asked in all the questions, whether you are even applying for like managers or director levels of role in engineering department. And that's where I believe, like, even when you are in your fourth year, apart from like all your courses going around, I would say that for computer science course people, these are the set of things. And apart from like the coding competitions and all, if you are interested in any particular domain, whether it's ML or AI, this is a good time for you to start spending time on like anything which you think you might want to spend more time in future, because you have that buffer of you have already got a job placement in January, and you have 6 months down the lane where you have a free time of like probably thinking of what you want in your life ahead, whether you want to do MS in a particular field, and you can just spend that period of time in that field for a while understanding what those basics are, so that like you can make a proper decision at the end of your fourth year. That's one big part there.
If Piyush
Yeah,
or Nikant want
I
to add.
can add.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go next. I think like improving your communication skills is one thing which should really help if you're a final year student. I know like people from a variety of backgrounds come to IITs, and not all of the people are fluent in English. Not all of the people know exactly how to communicate your ideas through. That like this is one skill which will help you lifelong. It will help you during your interviews. It will help you in your jobs. It will help you for like if you decide to go for your masters. So definitely I will say like try to like if you're not really good at English, you're the best judge for that. Definitely improve your English skills. And if you need to do like the communications course, I think IT Ropar has communications courses still. I don't know, humanities department probably still offers them. It might be a good time to take up those and just brush it up.
I think we can take another question from the chat box. So the question goes like, will the companies consider students for SDE2 after MS, or do we need a start fresh? Like, do we need to start fresh?
So it sort of depends. For the most part, you're pretty much starting fresh, but I have seen maybe like I would say like 5% of the people who do start at SD2. The only thing is it like things get more difficult because if you're fresh out of college, when you apply for these jobs, you're considered a fresher by them. Most companies will not even consider you for an SD2 role, but I've seen like a few of my friends apply for an like lateral hire SD2 position at Amazon, and they were able to crack it. But it just like gets more difficult to crack those interviews because the expectation is obviously much higher, and um, yeah, like even like after joining the job, the expectations are much higher, which you wouldn't necessarily be very comfortable meeting.
Okay, so we have Akansha Singh who is asking from Nikant, like, for a fresh graduate, what are your views on doing GSOC and how does its experience help us?
Yep. I think GSOC is a wonderful program in terms of like gaining some real world experience on open source projects. Uh, as I was in electrical engineering, I didn't have much exposure to like all the computer science courses, especially like the practical part. So GSOC for me especially was kind of like I was learning Git for the first time when I did GSOC. I was learning Python for the first time when I did GSOC. So it was kind of wonderful. Means I got a project which the members of the open source community were very supportive of. Like I didn't know a lot of things going on in the project, and they were able to guide me, and I was able to learn a lot on the fly, and it paid also well. So I think in general, if you get an opportunity to do GSOC, it's wonderful, as well as like it really shines on your resume. It you can like look at it as an open source Google internship, which actually makes your resume solid. So it has definitely helped me. People always ask me when I'm in an interview, when I've given Facebook interview, also they ask me about like this GSOC project which I did, what I did there. So it really helps. Like if you can get into GSOC, you get the practical experience, you get something to write on your resume, and you gain the skills. So it is a win-win situation.
So next question goes a little out of profile, but I'd still quote. So Harshit Malik says, could you also shed some light to MBA route to US compared to the MS route?
Sure, I can answer that one. Um, the MBA route to US is a little more dicey as compared to MS. And I'll tell you why. So after your MS, if you do your MS in like science or technology related fields, so basically engineering comes under that, um, you can stay in the US for up to 3 years without getting like a work visa. You can stay on your student visa. There's a program called F1 OPT, which allows you to work for 3 years without any issues. So at the very least, you're guaranteed 3 years in the US before you need a work visa. And even with the work visa is the same H1B visa we talked about. You go into a lottery, there's no guarantee that you'll get the visa. Uh, for people applying directly out of India, the probability is like 30%. For people in the US, it's a bit more. You sort of get two different pools. There is a pool of H1B visas, which is just for people who have done their master's or PhD from US. So your probability is higher, and you have 3 years to get the visa. So most people, I think like 99% of the people do end up getting the visa, and they can stay in the US long term if they come through that route. The problem with MBA, if you go for an MBA, is it's not like one of the STEM fields, which is like science, technology, engineering, management, engineering, and medical, I think. So you only have 1 year of like work time on your visa. So in that 1 year, if you don't get a visa, like work visa, you have to go back to India. The MBAs are pretty costly. I think they're even more costlier than MS in US. So you might end up with a much bigger financial liability and not have anything to show for it. You might be in debt when you leave the US if you don't get that work visa. So if anyone is looking to do an MBA, I would rather recommend find a related engineering field and do an MS in that. Like if you're really interested in operations, let's say for MBA, I would say like supply chain engineering is a good field. I know one of our like seniors did that, and he got into US. And like MS in supply chain engineering does is pretty much same as I think MBA operations. So he still gets to do what he likes. If you are really into finance, finance engineering is another thing you can do. So just pick options that are more engineering, and you'll be fine. I don't necessarily recommend an MBA from US just because
Yep.
you might end up in debt.
Yeah, and also like this is all about like supply and demand. There is a lot more demand for software engineering jobs in the US compared to MBA jobs. MBA jobs, the students that are preferred like are mostly American citizens or green card holders. So it becomes harder for a company to sponsor you. So like you might even not, even if you find a job, like the company might not be willing to sponsor you, which will again like leave you in a bad state. So if you get like want to really do an MBA here, it should be like really, really good college like Kellogg's or Stanford or something like
Mhm.
that. Otherwise, it can be very, very risky.
Okay, that's great to hear. So I think we can take up the next question by Ramakrishna, who says, does MS from top university matter to get a desired profile in big tech compared to not so good universities?
I can take that one. Again, it like I would put it this way. Like being in a top university just gives you a higher chance of getting into big tech. It doesn't necessarily like it's all like all that is giving you is like a push, and you're like starting off at an advantage because you are more likely to be picked in a resume screening. You're more likely to have those companies on your campus for career fair or for like hiring talks. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to land up a job just because you're at a Stanford or at a University of California, and rather than at a like state university. You are as like you're just as likely to get into big tech from those universities if you manage to get through the first screening hurdle. So, and I've seen people do that. It's not like as Nikant and Kamal have already said that there are a lot of openings here for engineering. So you're very likely to get a call up if you just apply to like a lot of companies, and there are a lot of good companies here.
To add to it, like uh, the college and grade only matters to the point where you are being screened to get an interview. Once you're in the interview, probably by the end of the whole process, the 20% would have been like I would just call it out some percentage that's 10 to 20% is what would be the weightage for your college and your grades. The rest would be all what you perform in that interview. So that's where the good college and good grades, even for like within applying within for companies in India, or whether we are talking about MS and getting a grade or GPA in MS and then applying in US. In both the cases, the good college and good grades will only get you towards the interview, and how you crack the interview is what you will get to the job or not. Yeah, that's my experience of how the whole industry is working.
Yeah. And also, you can use your alumni network here. We have like people in all the big companies. So like even if you do MS from not so recognized university, means try to get a good university. But if you're not, try to use your alumni network, try to get referrals. I think referrals at least get you in till further than screening. I don't know, like you don't get auto rejected. So like try to do that. And that way you can curb the like not so good university dilemma.
Yeah, definitely agree with what Nikant said. Like jobs, like getting jobs in US, it's a lot about networking, and that is where you guys have an advantage. Like if you like, there's at least 100 alumni, I think, in US from IIT Ropar, and if you hit up anyone and ask for a referral, no one is going to say you know. Like these 100 alumni have their own networks here, so I think like in any company that you want to find, you can pretty much get a referral for that company if you just ask for it. Like the onus is entirely on you. You need to be like you need to go and talk to the alumni and be like, I need a referral for this company. Can you get me one? And people will get you one. Like we're more than happy to help like our juniors.
So next up we have Parnavi, who's asking, I'm a dual degree student, so I'll get a master's degree from IIT Ropar itself. So I do want to settle in US eventually. So would you recommend a double master's degree or would you recommend the other routes? Would my first master's degree give some sort of advantage or will it have disadvantages?
I don't have like much knowledge on this regard, but I'll share what I can. Um, so like it is easier to get into a master's like I'm assuming since Pranav is not talking about getting a PhD, it's just master's. The first master's is not going to be disadvantageous to you. It's just you spend an extra year like getting there. So that's all you're losing. You're pretty much at the same level as anyone else. If anything, if you use this 1 year to do some research with one of the professors at IIT Ropar and get like a research paper or get like a really good academic project, it will work to your advantage rather than your disadvantage. And what else did she ask? Yeah. there's no disadvantage. Nobody's like going to be like, oh, you did a master's in India and now you're applying for another master's in US. Why are you doing that? That's usually not the case. You should just use your extra 1 year to get some research credentials, and it'll definitely help your build your profile.
Like if you want to add something, maybe Nikant or Kamaldeep can go ahead, or we can move on to next question.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I also don't have much knowledge of like dual degree programs, but I think it shouldn't be a disadvantageous thing. That's what I'm thinking. Like you can like gain much more experience in that like extra 1 year, do some research projects, which might push you into even a better university. So I don't think so. This should be a like bad, like something bad on your resume. I think it will be a stronger point on your resume.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
great.
like we missed one part of the question probably. So I think she already like also asked about like recommend other routes. Um, yeah, like it depends on what you want. Like if you are definitely like decided you want to settle in US, then masters is probably the easier, like more highest probability route to get there. But I would say keep your options open. Apply for like be prepared to apply for your masters in your final year, but also like set for placements. If you get a really good company, like you get a company which can send you to US, then you should decide at that point rather than right now. Just keep your options until the very end and then make a decision.
So, like in the last question, you were mentioning about how a good alumni network can be helpful in getting a good job. So, following up to that, I think we have a question which states, how good is our alumni network in the US, especially in the big tech?
Do you want to like any of you guys want to answer, or should I take it?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Um, I don't necessarily know how to quantify, but if you're talking about Facebook, like Nikant and I at Facebook, there's like at least two more people I know at I think at Facebook. There's a bunch of us at Google, like bunch of our alumni at Google. Same with Amazon. What else is left? I know. I think like
Microsoft.
there are a few people at Apple, Microsoft. There's like a lot of people who joined Microsoft Hyderabad, moved over to the US. So yeah, I think like the big tech companies, you're more likely to find someone rather than not. Or if you don't find someone, you can still just ask one of the people, like these people in US, and you'll find they know someone or they have a friend who works at those companies, and then you can get your referral that way.
Yeah, yeah. I think even if we don't have alumni, like Piyush mentioned, like once you get into these big companies, you form so many relationships with people like who get it to top of like other companies, like startups or whatever you want to apply on. So with using that network, we should be mostly able to get you a referral in most of the big tech companies in the US.
So looking at the questions, I think we missed one of the questions. I think it was from Karthikeya. Um, yeah, I think we talked about difference in software development jobs in India and US apart from the monetary incentives. I guess he wanted to know about the monetary part as well. So do you, like Nikant or Kamaldeep, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can start with this. I think monetary part, at least for me, it was a big jump. I was in PayPal earlier when I started. I think the thing about US is like when you like, yeah, there is this base pay also, but like the biggest jump that you get is in equity. Like how many stocks do you get in the company when you join? And also the signing bonuses, like they are pretty high, what I've seen. Like you can get to the tune of like 200K equity when you start. And then depending on your position, you can get much more. And this 200K in equity, I'm saying $200,000 like for 4 years, vesting for 4 years, not in 1 year. Uh, And then also, I think the base pay is still a bit higher. It depends on how you live here, how you like pace your living standard here. Like if you uh, like take a lot of trips, or like you can spend a lot of money in the US. But if you decide to live frugally, or like if you decide to live in sharing, you can still save a lot. Uh, Kamal, you want to add like the aspect between India and, I think you worked in Google India and Google US, between the salaries. Can you save more in India or US? Do you want to add there?
I can add on the route
Yeah.
of you are coming
Hmm.
from L1 within a company, switching within a company,
Yeah.
compared to if you are in US doing an MS, or if you switch a company within US, then there's a different route. So like, there's something called joining bonus, and again,
Hmm.
even the equity part, which Nikant already mentioned. Like these are the set of things which company gives when you join the company. So if you're joining a company in India, which was our like second route, where you join company in India and through L1 you shift to US. At that point of time, when you shift to India, there's not big jump in terms of equity. Like equity, again, over a period of time, the company starts giving you based on the US position. But in terms of joining bonus, that is something which you have already missed out. So that's just one small aspect of when you're joining the company directly in US compared to when you join in India and then shift to US. While in terms of, if we talk about just the base salary, which is there in India and US, there's again a difference. Like Nikant already mentioned that if you're spending a lot in US, you can spend a lot in terms of your trips, or you're roaming around the world, that you can do in India as well. And again, depending on how much you want to save, you can definitely save much more higher in US. That's definitely a very plus point of being in US. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think like if we talk just in terms of number, the jump might be like a 5x for Google or 10x. What does that look like from Indian salary to US salary?
It would be hard to put in those
I
particular numbers.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
it depends. I think also the taxes here are high depending on the state you are in.
True.
So if you are in like a California like state, your tax rate like can be around 42%. So it depends where you are. I won't say it's a 10x jump for sure. Google also pays very handsomely in India now. So 10x is, I think, a lot. I guess it can be anywhere between 3 to 5x, but we have to
Mhm.
quantify that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. I think our host again dropped off. Should we just pick another question from the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Let's do that.
what is next?
I think it's how important is CGPA while applying for MS? Do you want to take that?
Um,
Or did we answer that?
sure. I
Mhm.
think no, there's another question before that
Okay.
we missed. It's
Okay.
like I'm a first year CSE student. What are the things I need to pick up in the next 3.5 years to go for an MS? Things like research projects, internships, CGPA, extra credits. And this is, I think, Pranav Kumar once asked this. I can start. I think Nikant and Kamal can also contribute. But since you're just starting out, I think the first thing to do is focus on your academics. I would say, like, I know somehow it so happens that some senior of yours will come and say, "Oh, CGPA is not important. Don't care about it." But I'll be upfront. I'll tell you, CGPA is important. It always helps to have a good CGPA. You don't necessarily have to be like a 9 pointer, but you should at least strive to be an 8, like 7 to 8 pointer. I don't like that should at least be your goal. Where you'll end up, it really depends on your abilities. So that's one thing you can work through right from the start. Besides that, I would say as you get into your second year and you start taking more courses related to your your major, which is computer science, you can start figuring you can see if you can get some research opportunities with the professors over there. Doing an internship after your second year and after your third year are definitely like helpful, and these are not things that are like MS focused. These are things which will help you land a job, which will help you go for an MBA, no matter what. Like, and another thing, since I brought that up, a lot of people think that if you end up with a bad CGPA, you can always go for an MBA. Most reputed colleges will count that as a negative and will have a cutoff on your CGPA even there. So CGPA is important as such. Besides that, I like try to get research opportunities. If you can work with one of the PhD students or one of the professors and get something published, it's a definite plus. MS, like universities, when they're looking at students for MS, they usually want people who will contribute to research. And if you have demonstrated that appetite earlier, they are more likely to pick you and get you into the program. Nikant, Kamal, do you want to add anything?
No, mostly I think you yeah took on all the major points. I think yeah, first of all, congrats. You are in your first year, still thinking about MS and all those things. I think when we were in our first year, we weren't thinking about those things. I think at least till third year, we didn't start thinking about those things. So yeah, I think you're way ahead of time. So yeah, keep it up. And I think yeah, the CGPA thing is really important. Keep up a good CGPA. Rest of the things tend to take care of themselves when once you like get into a hang of keeping up a good CGPA. Like yeah, keep a good relationship with your professors. Try to like do some research projects with them. Their recommendations will count a lot at the end. So yeah, I think yeah, if you're thinking about it right now, you are in the right mindset. So just keep at it.
Yeah, and also just keep your options open. I know, like, you see, like, you want to go for an MS, but 2 years down the line, maybe you won't. So yeah, just keep your mind open, see where things land up, and see how it goes.
Well, I guess we are already ahead of time. I think we can take up this last question by Pradyuman, who says, "What is a good GRE score to get into a top university in US?"
Um, I would say, like, okay, the least I've like at least 315. So GRE, the score is out of 340. It's split equally between the like verbal section and the math section or quant section. So 315 is at least what I would say. If you can get any higher, it definitely helps. So yeah, 315. It's not a too difficult a score to get. Um, like in the math part of it, it's out of 170. Uh, you ended up at an IIT, so you'll have to do really, really bad if you get like really, really bad, and you'll have to try to get a score less than 160 in the quant section. It's the verbal or the like English related section that you need to work on, and you need to have a good vocabulary to get through that section. So anyone who wants to prepare for MS or wants to give GRE, I would say there's like a bunch of these word lists. I think Barron's word list is pretty famous these days. People use something I think called Magoosh, which have like just a bunch of words and their meanings. So there's no better way if you don't already have a good vocabulary. You just have to mug it up, and once you know the words, you'll be able to answer the questions.
Well, I think we can conclude. Kamal Bhaiya?
I think there's another question. I guess we can take that one. There's a last question, right? What's that? Oh, I think we did cover that. How important is CG when applying for MS? I'll just add one thing on that one. So CGP again is a filtering criteria for MS. I would say at least more than 7. And anything higher, it just helps you. Like if Nikant would have applied, he was like the department topper, a 9-pointer. So that would have definitely helped him get through a lot of these universities. Each university has their own criteria. Some universities tend to focus on CGPA, some universities don't. So you just have to, like, if you have a lower CGPA, you just have to make sure you compensate. If you can't compensate, like, you have to justify it in your statement of purpose, which is an essay you're writing about yourself. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I think we are towards the end of the session. And first of all, I will thank all our alumni for answering so many questions. And I think we have covered a lot of questions. Before ending this, I would like to have one question to all of you. Can you tell how was your life at IIT Ropar? Any interesting experiences or stories before we end?
Yeah, I think we had a very eventful experience at IIT Ropar. Yeah, like Kamal and Nikant are my batchmates. We've shared these experiences. When we like, and like, someone is asking about like MS in first year. When we were in first year, we were seriously considering if we had made the wrong decision by coming here, because when we came in, it was the first year in Ropar. The campus, it used to be like a women's polytechnic college and had just become IIT Ropar, like the campus, like the facility itself. There was mud everywhere and there was no water in the bathrooms, and the situation was not pretty good. We didn't have Wi-Fi until the second semester, I guess. We had to go to a computer lab to get access to a internet. So yeah, things were very different from what they are right now. And like things did improve pretty fast. The initial years, the faculty used to travel. A lot of faculty members used to travel from IIT Delhi to teach. They used to fill up our weekends with classes, and for weekdays we would be like playing cards because we didn't have faculty or classes. So yeah, I think we've had like a very, very different experience as compared to all of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had lots of firsts in IIT Roper, like first Zeitgeist, which was really fun. Like we started a lot of things. We had a lot of good memories there. Like we in the first year or second year, even like we were four people staying in the same room. And we knew pretty much everyone in the batch. It was like batch of 120 people, less than that. Uh, so even like we didn't have too many facilities, but it still was a lot of fun. I still fondly remember those days and miss those days, even after like being on a job and like having all the money in the world to experience different things. Those days like are the most that I miss right now also.
Yeah, like people who are still not in the still starting out or in the first or second year, I'll tell you like these are the best friends you're going to make in life. So yeah, just enjoy the years. You will miss them. Like you might not feel like you'll miss them once you're out, but you'll miss them. Like yeah, I think like everyone becomes sort of a family when you're like 24/7 with these people. So it's a lot of fun.
Kamaldeep?
Yeah, to add to it, like again, mostly Nikant and Piyush covered it. Like when we landed in like IIT Ropar or Polytechnic Women's College there, it was since we were the first batch among with our seniors who were 2008 batch who spent their first year in IIT Delhi. They were also the first one who landed in IIT Ropar. So all of us actually saw that like place for the first time. Even the professors and all those management people were actually trying to handle the situation or handle the place pretty well. But for the first 1 or 2 semesters, the place was actually like all muddy. The water was all the way around. Even if it rained for a day, like we were not able to handle like where the water is coming in, even in rooms and all. So this situation turned out pretty fast from first or second year to the third year, where like new hostels were being built and we were being put into the again a new hostels and all. From the colleges again, whether it was forming up the new clubs or whether it was having the first zeitgeist of the college and all, it was all a memorable days. And as Piyush mentioned, like you make up what your best friends in your life through these 4 years of your college, and they remains throughout your life. And yeah, that's the best part of the college. And enjoy your time being there. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yep.
So on
Yep,
the
and
final,
don't let anyone tell you like you are from a new IIT or something like that. You have now the alumni in like the best companies in the world doing research in best universities. So like don't ever think like that. You are still from an IIT and like make IIT Roper proud going forward. Cool.
yep. So on the final notes, any final piece of advice or words from your side before we end this session? to all the students?
Mm, what would you say? Yeah, it's difficult to summarize. I would say, like, if you're in your first year, enjoy, see how life is going, figure out your interests, maintain that good CGPA. So if you're in the second year, you might want to get a bit more serious if you want to go. Like, you don't have to make a decision. You just have to look at all the options that are out there. There's MBA, there's GATE, there's like GRE through MS, or if you want a job, just look at all the options, see which ones seem interesting to you, and still pretty much the same. Just go on with your life. If you're in third year, that's when things get a bit more serious. You need to get that internship at the end of third year. So work towards that. Uh, Try to do research. If you're thinking about MS, try to like get a internship at a company if you're doing a job. If you're in the final year, or if like towards the end of third year, if you're thinking of applying for an MS, or if you're thinking of going for that MBA, you need to prepare. Usually, like joining up one of those like coachings usually helps. I had joined Princeton Review. A lot of like for MBA, I think people usually join Bullseye or IMS. What's that? IMS, I think. So do that. If you're in the fourth year, I guess it's time to apply if you're doing MS, because the MS deadlines are around December. So you need to, like, if you're, for people in fourth year, you might want to get serious about applying. Make sure you have your letters of recommendations lined up. You have your like statement of purpose. You're ready to give your GRE and TOEFL. Usually people give those exams. Like usually people give those exams around, I would say July or August timeframe, so that they leave enough time for the rest of their applications. And yeah, if you're preparing for your jobs, get your communication skills good, and like prepare for the technical part for the interviews. If you need more guidance, reach out to your alumni. People will help you out and figure out how to crack the interviews. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. Nikant, Paji.
Yeah, I think it depends which year are you in. If you're just in your first year or second year, like have fun, experiment with different things. Like Piyush was saying, like keep your mind open, keep your options open. Like try to take like when we were there, like we used to literally fight for courses which weren't offered to us. Like if you think like you want to get into some course, if they're not offering you, fight with the professor, get in the course. Like yeah, and also like right now, I think yeah, from our time also technology has advanced so much. You can learn anything on your laptop now. So like yeah, don't make much excuses. If you want to learn something, there is always an option to learn. Uh, and yeah, try to think like once you get into third or fourth year, try to think long term what you want to do. You want to do MS or like job or whatever. Like, but yeah, but also like as Piyush was mentioning, try to experiment with things like organizing a fest or like things which make you uncomfortable, which will be actually very useful when you really get into jobs or something. Because once you get into a job, yes, your technical skills matter, but your soft skills matter a lot more. They keep on mattering more and more as you go into upper positions. So like yeah, so experiment with different things, have fun, make memories, make friends, uh, and yeah, live life fully.
I'm kind of going to like repeat the kind of same things which Nikant and Piyush mentioned. Like for the first 2 years, like you are enjoying your life, and probably from learning aspect, apart from having your courses, you can learn everything online. Like it's all available right now online. From the third and fourth year, like keep your options open. Whatever things which we talked today, like whether it was all three options, MS or getting a job in India first and then going to US. If we are talking more from again the US perspective, keep your options open. Like you don't have to make a decision till like you have a job in your hand and you have a like university as well in which you have already applied. Until as you don't have those two options in your head, you don't have to make a choice till that point of time. Just keep those both of those two options open, and just make sure that you have both of them in your hand before you have the options to make a choice. That's mostly it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And like one final thing to add, like don't shy away from contacting your seniors or your alumni. people are more than happy to talk. Like we are very happy when someone reaches out and asks us question because it gives us a chance to get to know more about like what's happening on the campus. Like right now, I wouldn't know any of you and I wouldn't really ping you, but you have the chance. Like if you ping me and you ask me like all of these questions or any of these questions, I'll be happy to answer that, and I'll be like, okay, what, like tell me more about like what's happening on the campus. It helps us also stay connected, and it definitely is an advantage because you'll get the knowledge that you're looking for.
Yep. So I guess now we can wrap up the session. First of all, I'll really thank all of you for taking out your valuable time and take the session. You've answered a lot of queries, and I think everyone of the session must have learned something. And we are very grateful for all of you for that, and hoping to stay connected with you in future as well. And we would like to again thank you for this session, for coming in this session. And I would also thank the audience that came this morning. And yeah, thanks all. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep. Thanks for organizing. Thanks for having us. Yeah. Have a good day.
Yep.
Thanks everyone. See you. Bye.